I thought I would explain some of the little tips and tricks sort of, or little things that I've done that maybe you wouldn't notice at first glance when I point some things out. Let me start with their hay. I found I used different sorts of mangers and different ways of feeding hay, and I found that these horse bags work really well. And in fact, I think last spring I made a video about these bags, which have now lasted almost a year and still going strong, it seems. And I find it to be a pretty great way to feed them hay. I keep it up off the ground so it stays clean and dry. It slows them down. I feel like it slightly entertains goats. And as far as I know about goats being browsers, they don't mind eating up high. In fact, I think it's their preference. They like to reach up for things. So unlike other ruminants who might benefit from their food being closer to the ground, like grass would be, I think goats kind of benefit from having their hay up high. So that's the hay system that I've figured out, that I've stuck with for about a year now, that works for me. I can fit half a bale in these bags, so I split a bale in half and put half the flakes in one and half the flakes in the other, and it lasts them 2 to 3 to 4 days, depending on the bale, its quality, its density, and how hungry they are. The minerals, kind of a similar thing, except the reason I have minerals up high is mostly just for cleanliness. And then I make sure it's up high enough so that their butt can't get in it, that where they'd poop in it. And I have it pretty secure here, that although I just hung it up here yesterday, so we'll see how long it works. I have these little S hooks going onto these, the hog panel, cattle panel, utility panel. And I have salt and pepper, aka baking soda, and their kind of mineral mix. Pretty basic. I feel like I could do more in the mineral department, and might look into that, especially considering this beauty might be pregnant and she might be in need of some extra things. I've thought about, for instance, doing a copper bolus. I believe that's how you pronounce it. I've never done it, but my understanding is it's like a large pill filled with actual copper particles, or more than particles, like little bits of copper that will like impregnate themselves inside of their digestive system and dose them with copper over time. I thought that could be a pretty good idea, but I got them all tested for parasites last spring, and they were very low and we didn't need to do anything. So as far as parasites are concerned, I feel they're doing well. And it wouldn't be copper necessarily for that, but just I've heard about the importance of copper. I don't know if I can speak to the shelter yet, considering they've been in here for less than 24 hours. But basically with the shelter and the winter shelter, I'm wanting to cut down on wind. So we're facing north right now. So the north side of this building, nice, that was a little snow coming off the roof of the shed. There's the shed. There's a shed right there. If you can see, 1 window, 2 window, that's a shed. So it's kind of blocking the main, if we get a lot of straight line winds out of the north, which I feel like can happen in the winter. That'll help, protect the shelter from too much intense wind coming that way, hopefully, is the idea. And then also just having the north side blocked off, since that's the coldest air is usually coming from that direction. We've got the south side open with the yard in here. It's a beautiful time of day right now because the sun is over the trees and it's coming in. But I want to work on maybe cutting some of these trees down over to the east and allowing some more sun to pop in here in the morning and really utilize the greenhouse effect. This hutch I built a year and a half ago out of pallets, and it's heavy, and it has horse mats on top, some plywood underneath the horse mats. They've jumped all over it. All 3 of them stand on it. I don't know. Fingers crossed, knock on wood, it's going to keep surviving and doing all right. It's kind of rickety, but it's mostly pretty solid. It's got, pallets in the back and plywood around it. So it's just another I feel like for the really cold days, this will have the driest, thickest bedding. We've got a bone for Franny, and we've got a Franny. Cuddle buddy galore. She provides a lot of heat for whatever goat wants to cuddle with her, or me, right? And so this is just, I feel like they enjoy this. Obviously, they enjoy jumping on top of it. Hence, like, the rubber mats are great for their hooves, being comfortable. The black rubber mat will grab some warmth. They can kind of sunbathe on this thing. And then I just feel like they poop on top of this thing more. It just will keep this bedding cleaner and drier and really nice for sleeping and staying warm. And sometimes I even put flakes of straw inside of this pallet and kind of create even an additional layer of insulation and draft blocking, so that if they're just ever feeling cold at all, they can come and get a little extra cozy. Ain't that right? I pamper these goats. I don't think goats necessarily need all of this, but I just feel good about it. I hope it allows them to grow strong and healthy, continue to be so. And, you know, some challenge is obviously good for all of us creatures on this earth, but I think they're smart enough. They sometimes will sleep outside, probably not in the snow anymore, but if they don't want to be under the hutch, they can be out there. They could, you know, go wherever they want to go and sleep. So they can challenge themselves as much as they like. They can take some little amount of comfort if they like. Franny wants some attention. Yes, it was nice. That's a good girl. And the last thing I wanted to discuss about their basics, goat basics that I've picked up on owning 3 goats. Obviously, look at my situation. I have 3 goats. I have, you know, no permanent structure that I feel comfortable putting them in, you know, besides the shed on the other side of this was the first winter that I moved here, my first winter with goats. I had Princess and Skylar, and they were half the size they are now, still babies, and I stored them out in, stored them. They stayed in the man hut, but I didn't have a job or anything, so although it was a small space for them, somewhat small and confined, we went out for walks all the time, and so yeah, basically I feel pretty good about them having this amount of outdoor space and indoor space. But I like to give them hikes. We like to go for hikes. I can notice when they're getting cooped up, and we try to work with that and find a balance. They also just kind of like when I'm out here with them and giving them some love, and then they just like when they have their minerals and their hay and good fresh water. So here is a heated bucket hanging by just a little strap that I have it hanging on the fence here. That makes it, you know, impossible to be tipped over, basically. So that's one thing. And then I have it that elevates it to prevent them from pooping in it as much as possible. That was a big problem I had when I had them in the man hut. I just had their bucket in a corner, and they would poop in it almost every day, partly probably because it was a small space, so they just accidentally, you know, would back up to it and poop in it. But mainly for Princess, and she's kind of the shortest necked, in case this gets a little low, I've got a little ramp here that they can stand up on and get their neck down in there. But usually, you know, I'm coming and topping this off every day. They usually go through like half a bucket of water a day, and I just have the cord with an extension cord going all the way to the house right now, since obviously keeping water, I mean, they really appreciate warm water too, I feel like, so that's a good boy. And Cupid has a thing where every time I bring out a fresh pail of water, even though I've seen him drink out of this bucket. The other goats, of course, don't bully Cupid away from the water. I mean, they all have plenty of opportunity to come and drink the water. But he just loves when I bring a fresh bucket of water, and he'll just sink his mouth in there and just drink, you know, like sometimes a quarter of a bucket. I mean, probably, seems like he probably drinks like a gallon of water. I don't know. It's pretty amazing. Ain't that right? It's like he saves up and wants that fresh, warm water that I bring out. But otherwise, I definitely try to keep this bucket cleaned out. Just, you know, maybe I try to do probably once a week. In the winter, and maybe now that it's outside in the sunlight, I'll do it more often, because maybe more algae and microbes will build up in there that we don't want. But we'll see. I mean, generally they do a pretty good job of keeping it clean. You know, they get a little hay in there, they get a little straw from their mouth when they come to take a drink. But you know, I feel like I keep my goats somewhat picky. I've been around farms where the water bucket was really dirty, really pretty gross, and I felt like the goats drank it out of necessity. But when I would bring a fresh pail of water into that goat barn, I was just flooded. You know, I was mobbed, rather, by the goats wanting fresh water, fresh, clean water. And that just told me, you know, that they're not really liking the water that's there. It's gross, it's dirty. It's important to keep water clean and fresh. They have taste buds. They use them. I think they're really finely tuned taste buds. They can taste, they can smell or taste an apple or banana. If I've taken a bite out of it, they don't want it. If I cut it, if I take that same banana, cut off the part that my mouth touched and give it back to them, they gobble it up. I mean, they are aware of bacteria and that kind of thing, and I think they avoid bacteria that may, you know, be harmful to their system. And they are looking for things that are clean and fresh and untouched, untouched by the ground, that sort of thing. And that is, I mean, obviously, I would think that that has a lot to do with parasites and keeping the gut microbes and a healthy balance, and not having excessive, you know, competing bacteria or whatever we could call it, parasitic type of organisms. So those are my basics: water, hay, minerals, shelter, and another basic is love and attention and care. They need it. They need novelty. They need something going on. They don't want to sit out here all day just hanging around by the three of them, you know. They get bored. So that's the reason I'm going to work on a fencing situation for them to have space to go and explore, especially at least during the daytime. If I could let them out so they could go and romp around, and I could let them be, and then, you know, we could call them in at night, lock them up inside a high quality fence like this one. Ain't that right, Prinny? I know Princess would really appreciate it. I really think of her as my smartest goat. No offense, boys. And she is particularly in need of novelty and entertainment and stimulus. I'm hoping that her having a baby will provide a lot of that, but that's not for another, that's not potentially if she is pregnant, which we brought her during what I suspected to be her heat cycle, got her in touch with a nice buck, and hung out with him for the weekend. And 3 weeks later, her next heat cycle, as far as I understand it, she did not go into heat. That was 2 weeks ago, I think. So we're looking at nearly a month pregnant. Yeah, that was end of November. So we're like over a month into a pregnancy, hopefully. And so we'll be looking at late April for kids from this one. Kid or kids. I think that's just a belly full of hay. A happy belly full of hay. One thing that I would love to improve upon is the hay itself. I mean, eventually I would love to be able to have some kind of like goat hay that is, you know, it has tree leaves and shrubs and that sort of thing mixed into it. But until then, what I'll do is get different kinds of high quality grass hay, third cutting, maybe some second cutting too, maybe some whatever. Offer that to them in variety, in rotation, mixing it up, you know, grabbing from, I'll go get 8 bales from the farm over there and 8 bales from, you know, a farm down in the city, and mix it up so that they get different flavors and different nutrients. And then I'll cut down trees in their area, or cut down trees elsewhere, pine trees, you know, things that are still containing some nutrition, and I can offer that to them throughout the winter to boost up their variety of flavors and nutrients. So really, we have a pretty good setup. I guess it would be really sweet to be able to offer them even more variety on top of that. But overall, I feel pretty good being 2.5 years into goat caretaking, and to be where I'm at, where we're possibly looking at having our first kids and expanding the herd in that way. We are, you know, I feel very ready for that. And I think Princess is feeling ready too. Okay, that was a good long ramble about various things in the goat world. And I hope you appreciated it. I hope whatever. No need to apologize for such things. If you enjoyed it, you did. If you didn't, you didn't. Peace out. I'll check in maybe when I get that shelter cleared out, or we'll see. We'll see what we check in with next. But for now, we seem to be happy and healthy, and we hope the same for you. Peace and love to you and your family and your friends and the whole universe. Goodbye.